thanking IC in the Caribbean Studies for the opportunity to actually make the presentation. Now, when you're asked to speak on the words of persons who have gone before you, I think it's important to actually let those persons speak for themselves as much as they can. Yes? So the approach I'm using to the presentation, A, would be to use a number of quotations that actually came from the writings of Walter. Because A, you won't be telling lies, you won't be making errors. Then I can analyze what he's saying and contextualize it. I have not attempted to try to look at all the work of Walter that would be possible to do. What I've done is to use my own bias. I mean, people have biases, so make it very clear about it. I use my own bias. Look at the work that he has done. The work that I think I was most interested in is in chapter 6 of the publication, Grounding with My Brothers. That chapter is also called Grounding with My Brothers as well. We're trying to get some copies so persons can get copies, because again, I think it is also important not to use the words of other persons to shape the thought, man, but read things for yourself and get your own insights. I can share some of my insights. But importantly, get the word and read for yourself, especially the younger persons. With that said, all protocols observed. Give thanks to all those who got the chance to turn out and have turned out. You know, there's a reasoning. I made a presentation, but I'm expecting that after I complete the presentations, persons have a lot to share. You know, if you look inside the audience, I see a lot of ancients who were here from that time, as Rastafari, Virgin, and of course, researchers who were here from that time as well. You know, you have the first-hand information. What we have as second generation or third generation scholars is really second-hand information. You know? Additionally, in terms of how I actually approach, I also like music, and so when I'm sitting and reading and thinking about what I'm going to present, a number of songs comes in my head at particular time. Okay, let me use this as well, because I have found that artists have the gift of being able to say something in 3 minutes that makes sense that myself as lecturers in the university take 1 hour or 2 hours to present on it. You know, so in the interest of time, it's good to use the music some of the time. So we'll move into it. So it's Rethinking Development from the ground up. And so the first song that came to my mind after reading that chapter is this song. Yeah, everlasting burning fire, Babylon your range down. Can't quench, everlasting burning fire, brother judgment to tell you. Can't quench, everlasting burning fire, Babylon get drenched down. Can't quench, Ethiopia mature desire. Babylon, they always think you get your food to eat and yet you find it hard to feed another you that come up at your feet. They always think you always a strive and yet you find it hard to show another get so you don't be survive. That's why the King Selassie I will rise. Rugged and Pharaoh, him city like a bless. Me know a king or a star for a ride upon the throne. Babylon, we the dust brimstone, down your name. Can't quench, everlasting burning fire, Babylon your rank down. Can't quench, Africa mature desire, black appearance. Can't quench, everlasting burning fire, Babylon your rank down. Can't quench, Africa mature desire, red judgment. They get to do some good up in the pit. Them judge and them jury just green and the grit and all the police and them soldiers said them ready and fit. This like what the them say. If the suit and Mr. Black Red Kingdom, some equal rights and justice. The true human rights, where the government none is. Rastafari did no say. PJ are the false and hypocrite and them a go bring no sword. If we make a big dirty switch. The Rasta jump the yard and the bottomless pit. Now follow the evil mama gun just want you real quick. another fire. Pants and public, me tell them see some no war. And wickedness, in a fornication, in them gun finger, them go deep. And that's all about them a photo. All that one they pass it, me say red, gold and green. In every district. And if you probably the witness, this a one your name. Can't put, can't quench. Everlasting burning fire. Babylon your rent, can't put, can't quench. Everlasting burning fire. Brother judgment of you. Can't put, can't quench. Everlasting burning fire. Babylon get rent, can't put, can't quench. Ethiopia, Matua, desire. Black people should know that it is slavery while we are here in Jamaica, the Western world. It's what should have said. Yeah, man. It is written in the book of Britain America that it was only iron-line with latitude of that take from Black Africa. Illegally as captives of slave children and brought us down here in Jamaica and all small islands. Of the British West Indies into slavery and to this day. Said most time, Celestia. Rastafari, no. Send, I just send blood and spill. The laws of the government, Babylon and kill. Them war us the tune, them gonna no will. Them war that crown, Mama Pearl and Jewel. I tell you that this succession and the part until the golden globe, riches of the earth fill. This man must go here, prophecy that won't fill. So to all to Ethiopia, Mount Zion Hill. You never get the win, who never get the mill. And I tell you this, I think of Babylon. Well, we are law, them not for your council. Repatriation, you Babylon, me let you hear. That is from one, this is a song that has not been played on the radio. Never been played on the radio. I never heard it on the radio. But you know that doing that simple song, it captures some of the things that if people read some of the work of Walter Rodney, those are some of the things that Walter Rodney is speaking about. Now this is averaging 35 years post Walter. And the same thing is in his head, and they're speaking about it, and many young persons are speaking about it. Again, my own bias as Rastafari, you know, just let them be aware of what I see and think and universe. They should be like based on some of the things of Pisces. And it was argued that the leadership developed here should be guided by the fundamental values and moral code which have for centuries constituted the essence of our spiritual teaching. And he would be a leader must pay the price of self-discipline and moral restraint. This entails the correction and improvement of personal character, the checking of passions and desires, and an exemplary control of one's bodily needs and drive. This of the mind is the basic ingredient of general knowledge and view for spiritual strength. Indeed, a university taken in all its aspects is essentially a spiritual enterprise, which along with the knowledge and training it imparts these students into a more wise living and a greater sensitivity to life's responsibility. Academic freedom, unless it conforms to the common good of a society in which it is expected to be exercised, is meaningless. See? So the reality is, if we think we should come into the university and get all these education and then becomes a boss slave, is really a joke. We will think that, yes, because they have passed more exams than the person out there, we have this kind of divine right to lead almost a kind of leftist Vanguardian philosophy. We need to know that the purpose of the education that we receive is to serve. And know that Walter Rodney being academically honest, because there are a lot of academic dishonesty around here. But we go around and listen to what people are saying. And we use it like it's our own words. And do not acknowledge the person from whom we have learned. So you know that Walter stated clearly that I begin by stating first and foremost that the struggle was here long before I went. I will continue after I have left. Because he came and saw a number of things that were happening. Things were happening from Marcus, from Bedford, through Howell. Number of things were happening. Rastafari people, non-Rastafari people, there was a consciousness and awareness that things needed to change. And the first level, as far as Black was concerned, the response of the population was automatic because this was what they were doing. This was what they were actually talking about. They can tell you, and I talk about Black Power, but I indicate this later on. You can learn from them what Black Power really means. It's a real space. sometimes we really don't appreciate the old people's brain. You know. How do you appreciate the brain of somebody who has been schooled in a particular kind of way, and when they write it, say it makes sense. But the virgin on the corner say it to you, you think it don't make sense. You know? You do not have to teach them anything. You just have to say it, and they add something to what you are saying. And this is the kind of honesty you want in an academic space. Because one of the fundamentals of learning is first to admit that you do not know. And this again is what I got from Walter when he made that statement. Rastafari, as far as I can say, Rastafari always said Rastafari is the first book. And therefore, in the dialogue, this is what he was getting from Rastafari, Virgin. The importance of being, yes, the importance of a person's ideas. What I've done is to look at some of the things that came out of that essay. Chapter 6. 3 key things came out in terms of groups that we were trying to address, that we address. A, government / police and the justice system. B, the universe and the space in which he operated. And C, Rastafari and the general population. So, I've gone to look at some of the words, use some of the quotes again, that's it, make it very clear in your mind what was the situation he was facing, why he thought the things that he thought at the time, why he suggested certain things. And then we're going to see if these things have changed, because I want to see what was happening then and what is the current situation now. Because that will give us some insight as to how much grounding has taken place over the past 50 years. I found through the research that a lot has happened, but there's so much more that still needs to be done. And it's one of those critical areas we have not done what we should have done. Now here's what he's saying, that in 1930, exactly 100 years after the supposed emancipation of the black man in Jamaica, the masses once again were driven into action to achieve some form of genuine liberation under the new conditions of oppression. The benefits of that struggle are a narrow, middle-class sector whose composition was primarily brown, augmented by significant elements of white and other groups, such as Syrians, Jews, and Chinese. You know, as I used to grow up here in that there's 21 families that control Jamaica. Syrian, Jews, and Chinese. And but as the same thing he was saying, of late that local ruling leaders incorporated a number of blacks in positions of prominence. However, irrespective of racial or color composition, this poor group is merely acting as representatives of metropolitan imperialist interests. Historically white and racist-oriented, these interests continue to stop attempts at creative social expression on the part of the black oppressed masses. You know, my second favorite book written by university lecturers, This book is called Persistent Poverty by George Beckford. And George Beckford writing came out of a traditional scholarship called the plantation economics, which George Beckford in that text actually stated that they need to destroy the plantation system. Of course, UWI was part of that plantation system as well. He actually argued, and we know what I was talking about, but Beckford argued that you should not expect those on the intelligence or the higher social strata to do what is necessary to transform the lives of the people, socially, politically, economically, and most importantly, psychologically. Why? Because of the most colonized minds. Now, it's two scholars that we celebrate at the university who are saying the same thing about persons who have been exposed to education. Matter of fact, they're saying things about persons who we have seen come to become decision makers in the country over the past 40 to 50 years, both in the university and outside of the university. And so if you question what kind of transformation has taken place, you see that not much has taken place. And so I argue that he was right. Many of those persons have the most colonized minds then, and they still have that same colonized mind today. He goes further to argue that the government of Jamaica, which is garbage, woman, has seen it fit to ban me, a Guyanese, a black man, and an African. The government, then you see what you have to say about Shearer further in the discussion. But this is not very surprising because though the composition of that government, of its prime minister, the head of state, and several leading personalities, though the composition happens to be predominantly black, and the brothers at home say they are white-hearted. These men serve the interests of foreign white capitalist system, and at home they uphold a social structure that ensures that the black man resides at the bottom of the social ladder. He is economically oppressed, and culturally he has no opportunity to express himself. This is the situation from which we move. Now, this is one thing which is different about Walter, because if you think about the scholarship that was taking place in the university around that time, many of the researchers were into class issues because they were influenced more by leftist ideologies. It's a class struggle. Walter being an historian and to be what is in reality, which is race. I find that we are more entertaining of class discussion than of race discussion. So Walter clearly tells that this idea of out of many one people is ridiculous. That's why I wanted to get this document to read and know Jesus by Rastafari by saying this thing. The man says ridiculous. And that is part of the psychological dilemma that they face. Because they're trying to tell people, yes, that we have a multiracial, whatever society. But it's true that in fact, that is not the case. Especially look at how resources are distributed. But he says that certain things were changing. So he argued that the large unemployed sector lacks organizational form, but there is a widespread reappraisal taking place among unemployed black youths. Remember, it's the 1960s, you know. You had the destruction, you had the Colonel Gardens massacre in 63. People know about this thing. I started came in 66. And I think the government was very surprised to see how many persons came over because they killed Rastafari in 63. And people were afraid. So all those things were happening. So you were seeing what is happening. There's a transition from a colonial state to a post-colonial state. There was moving away of resources outside of Jamaica back into England. So things were not as easy as persons might have thought when you entered into an independent situation. So persons were questioning these things. The plantation economists were doing a lot of work, speaking a lot of things, though they were not being supported by their own colleagues on campus. But a lot of discussions were taking place. So you have unemployed black youths who have recognized the farcical nature of the present two-party operation and self-defeating role which they themselves played so recently in 1967 when they gunned each other down on the orders of the political bandits of the two parties. You know, we have a colleague, Herbert, here. You know, and Herbert is one of these youths up in the street as well. And speak very openly and frankly. I mean, people are having discussions about gangs. Herbert went and did his research and examined what exactly constitutes a gang. And from his research, he noted that the only two gangs he could identify in Jamaica is the PNP and the GLB party. Okay, research now. Don't just take it as I say, get research because because that is research. You know, some people are like it, but the reality is, based on the versions we have done, they were the only groups that really best mirrored how you define a gang. But there are not black people that participate in the violence on behalf of the oppressors. They have all suffered from police brutality, and they have seen recently the middle class members of the gun club coming forward to volunteer their services in suppressing the people while the police were on strike. Some people have licensed firearms, were volunteering to do the work of police officers. Throughout the country, black youths are becoming aware of the possibilities of unleashing armed struggle in their own interest. This is something that I didn't really know. That was this kind of contemplation among the youths in terms of this armed struggle. For those who have eyes to see, there's already evidence of the beginnings of resistance to the violence of our oppressors. Now you start to see why is it that the state, I remember there was MG sitting there because that they have gone to that presentation and heard the presentation. I don't remember the name of the professor who made the presentation, which shows the work of MG Smith on behalf of both internal and external persons to destabilize what is happening in Jamaica, in Africa, to attack Rastafari people. See, they might not like it, but the reality is the reality. And many universe persons work also for other organizations. So know this, man. Yes? There's a reality. I mean, if you get funding from an international funding agency and you do the research, who does the research go? The funding agency. So they want to believe they are not directly or indirectly or a spy on your people. There's a reality. People use information that you do as research to decide what they're going to do in terms of strategy. And here was somebody who was directly working for those persons. Again, you need to get that piece of research where you make those statements. So people can be very aware. So they were aware that it's speaking of black power. And with the work already being done in Jamaica, youths were getting agitated. So it was in the interest of the state to get rid of this virgin. Because if you're already on a platform where people are thinking about moving against the state and he's here fueling that kind of fire, they won't allow it. So we cannot be surprised that he actually was banned by the Jamaican government. People in Jamaica will argue that they can trick 1 or 2 generations, but they can't trick 3 generations of youth, you know? And we'll see what comes out. We'll look at voting in Jamaica. It is the minors of the population that actually vote for the government. 40% of the voting population the last time. What fraction of that vote for the government? More than half. 25% of the entire voting population, which means that we're still being governed by a minority government. We need the math is very clear. Majority of the youth are not supporting any kind of political party. What does that say? So again, Walter was very right in what he was doing and what he was saying. From 40 years ago, he would have seen what was happening with the minds of these young persons. That political parties do not represent a meaningful solution to transforming their own lives. And the evidence is clear today. Now the youth might not be taking up arms. But again, I think that this part of the psychosocial makeup of the Caribbean person, and Jamaica in particular, somehow we have a great love for Jamaica that we will not mash up the country according to what we say. Yes? We don't like stupidness. We get very serious, but we're not taking up guns to go and shoot down people. We know that was the case, man. Just let us think about it for a second. We have 10,000 police in Jamaica, around 10,000 police. And the researchers argue that they have about 140,000 youths who are not engaged in any meaningful program. We call them unattached youths and at-risk youths. We cannot even put a number on the amount of guns that we have available. I'm going to have M16, which is an inferior gun to AK-47s. AK-47s these youths have. See? So why is that these youths don't go around and kill off everybody? 10,000 police can't fight 140,000 youths. Why do we continue to perpetuate the lie that these young people want to engage in violence? You must ask yourself, what kind of stewardship are we offered in a society where young people do not want to live past the age of 35 years old? So the reflection of the ideas and the minds of young people and the reflection of the decisions that we have made as adults, and some of them was the shameful of the decisions that you have made. Because we have passed an entire generation of gifted people, and we can see the gift. Sports, music, anything related to the creative industry, we are the best. So why is that young persons do not see themselves living in our country beyond a particular age? When you have all kind of people from everywhere, look at these youth. Caucasian people at University of the West Indies in the cultural service program. Why do they come to Jamaica? What do they think is so special about Jamaica? Or yes, we cannot let our children recognize how special Jamaica is. And then we blame the youth, eh? Like that. I do not know any youth at any board. I do not know any youth at any board in the country that make decisions. Big people, adults, persons who have gone through schooling, who claim of education, especially those with degrees. Those are the persons who primarily make up the boards. And then you have the politicians, which you don't have no real qualification to be a politician, but once a year is a key decision maker. So you have people with education, and you have people with political qualification who make decisions. And from those with both qualifications, the youth do not want to be here. We have just concluded a piece of research actually showed that while people feel proud about Jamaica and about their community, more than 80% of them would rather live somewhere else. Why? Because the opportunity. They are very proud of Jamaica, very proud of the community, but if they get the chance to live somewhere else, they will live somewhere else. That doesn't mean that they're not proud of Jamaica. But the reality is they're saying in terms of how I expect to live and what I want to do. It is not easy in a space like Jamaica. You're saying that the administration of the law has become more vicious and partisan. The number of charges imposed on black people for the possession of a ganja are astronomical. And the government has declared that the minimum sentence and conviction must be 18 months. You can imagine how those government people feel now when they know the ganja will float in Jamaica. How do you reconcile that? 18 months, a ganja seed. Ganja seed. 18 months. How many youths get in prison, get criminal record, get the same kind of psychological, because I think that is what we tend to omit a lot of time now. We think about the economic and the social implication, but the psychological implication, we don't think about it. So what are they going to do at this point in time? Now we are struggling for a way to deal with that particular industry in terms of the model. And again, we are so dishonest that we are not even going on the ground to look at what exists. And I'll show you some of that later, especially amongst the Bingi farmer I want to say, because it seems like quite everybody has the industry. The Bingi man industries in agriculture specializing in ganja production. Yes? And we are here, we have invited persons to come to talk about doing the association with the university in terms of the ganja. And we need to think about it. The first information on ganja came out in 1965 from Israel. If you look at the records, Jamaica was one of the places where most ganja was being planted. In terms of organized planting and community, hobby at pinnacle. They came out and they argued that there is some concern about indica plants. I'm talking about her now, indicas against sativa, the THC imbalance. Jamaica planted the cannabis sativa plant. Longest exposure to sunlight, they would have more cannabinoids, more actives than any other plant. Now, where is that seed? Because when research came out in 1965 and the 1970s, they destroyed all the ganja in Jamaica. So where's the original seed? Where did Israel get their plant research? Who have that seed? And we're here talking about medical marijuana. Well, on the 20th of October, we're making a presentation on how to establish a business model for the ganja industry within the Caribbean. I'm saying to you, need to go and find those persons who have the original cannabis sativa seed. That's the plant that we specialize in. If you're engaged in enterprise, you know, it's called a unique differentiation strategy. What is our unique differentiation strategy? It's the same reason they came down here. It's the same reason this tribe pinnacle. And it's the same reason you're trying to have associations with the Caribbean people now. Ganja must plant in dirt, in the sun, where you have high altitude and not exposure to sunlight. Jamaica really is a perfect space to plant the ganja plant. Yeah, is that because I'm Rastafari? Yes, please. And we are speaking about it as a thing to stimulate the agriculture sector, agro-industry, integrated farming, but this is not the ganja lectures and friend lecture. Now, since independence, the black police for Jamaica demonstrated that they can be as savage in their approach to black brothers as the white police of New York. Again, this is the 1960s. Remember in New York, the civil rights movement taking place, So I tell about New York, that was a place where there was serious brutality towards people of black, white states. A white-dominated states. And he said that our officers out here were prepared to be more cruel. The minister has not concealed his determination, I hear the minister is the Prime Minister, that the police should be used to maintain the present system of social oppression. And he has given them full authority to utilize whatever brutal methods they think necessary to carry out this mandate. Short after taking office last year, Prime Minister Shearer told the police, I make no bones about it, gentlemen. I want all Jamaica to get the message that the police force under this government is not reciting beatitudes to anybody. It's a serious incident that Prime Minister will make.
I think it's just nice things.
There's that thing about when all those things coming about community safety and security and focusing on citizen security as against state security point of the UN. I mean, Shearer have been a whole bunch of people. They wouldn't want Jamaica with justice around them time without about Shearer. But let's check it. He later added that the police whoever confronted with criminals should not stop to find out what distance was between themselves and the criminals before setting them alight. It means that they still them and know them criminals, shoot them. You know, these things, when you read, sit down and you start to read some things that, the persons wrote those times, and you can see why the system and the country stay the way it stays. See, because this is a part of the culture in the politics, So they hear Rastafari chant and burn the church and state. They must know Rastafari chant and burn the church and state. Because the church existed then, Yeah, the church existed. And the church get up and rise up against this. It means implicit and alone. But who was this? We have explicit and implicit collusion. Like many of us actually think that the PNP and the JLP might be political enemies. That is a lie. There's more implicit collusion than explicit collusion. Because there are a number of things that they agree upon. They can't have any other party except the PNP and the JLP. Politicians can't go to prison. Know that. Yeah, they collude upon that. Politicians can't go to prison. With the corruption, we don't expose too much of the corruption in the country, expose some but not too much in that as well. I learned from Truman that actually buying food is an illegal act that is there in some legislation. All them know that buying food is an illegal act and all them buy food. But criminal now what happen criminal. See me? Now we check these things. So the collusion amongst them is very, very strong. All time now opposes when you actually have elections. I don't matter if it's a cross-party election or an internal election. From years an election, they start to talk about bad things about each other. And yes, them ask you to vote for who? Vote for who? Best are the worst. You will see things that actually say about each other when they're competing internally and when they're competing across the board. There's a law which is called, there's a thing on the books is called the Illicit Enrichment Act, which argues that public sector workers must declare them assets. Have you heard any politician say that anyone of them must declare them assets? And we know them. I mean, I go as you on the campus and I hear I budget building wall, millions of dollars for a wall, and I get on you. Them get the money from. For example, when them parents want to put them in election, they have 2 houses and house in Miami. What is this? Why we not say anything about it? But we as university, we really not saying anything about it in a meaningful way. The law is there. It is there. And that's the argument they're going to use public funds to support corrupt political campaigns. And we're still allowing it. But we don't have enough money to deal with any kind of national outbreak of anything at all. We have to really think about what these persons are saying. People like this man here, the so-called dishonorable H.L. Shearer, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the traitor of the black race, has no moral authority to play accusation against me. That's not a Rasta man saying that, you know. Just know that. That's not Rastafari saying that. There's a youth who's a genius with a PhD who understands history, and he said, based on the actions of you, Shearer, who is the head minister in the country, he was a traitor to his own race. He went on to tell that he banned all the books from Sophie Carmichael, Elijah Muhammad, all those persons, including the book Black Beauty, about a horse. That's why I tell you, must get this thing and read, you know. Get the information so you can read it for yourself, you know. If you're not getting it for yourself, get it for your children. He argues those things. So what is the current situation? Because it goes on in there. Hiles of killing, hiles of corruption. You just take now, Truman will tell you all these things. You like to speak about the money that was given to us from the World Bank or the IMF in the 1960s to spend on education. Only half of the schools that were supposed to be built were built. Only half. Well, Transfer International actually argues that with a ranking of about 3.8 out of 10 within Jamaica, corruption is the norm. But let me say this to you, be careful, because when we speak of corruption, people like to think that it's the youth in the streets who are engaged in corruption. There's a distinction. There's something we call park corruption and iceberg corruption. Park corruption simply means that when you engage in a corrupt act, it is seen easily. Just like you put a cork in the water, it cannot sink, it floats. Those are the youth we call the scammers. They don't have no connection, they don't have no network. So when they use your own genius, which is negotiating skills, and do not mistake competence for bad behavior. They can use your competence for bad things, but that doesn't mean that you're not competent. These are expert communicators and negotiators. That's why they're able to communicate with strangers and get millions of dollars. So it becomes a national issue. We pay politicians to negotiate and can't negotiate properly. However, when these youths do these things and get the money, you know, the ambition that they have as youth, because they say as a youth, if you do school work, get some money to build a house, etc., etc. You know, they say these things to you without telling you how you are going to do it. Anyway, they have found a way to do it. When they get the money, they build a house that is so big. Because you have enough people, you see like that, you have a big part of big house, because enough people come in here. You know? Build a very big house. They buy beer things. Usually it's them mother they buy fine. They can't hide. So as I get to you now, I say, oh, come see you have so much money. When you get money to buy TV, buy this big kind of house, because one thing, you know, people like to watch and see how quick you build in a house. Yes? Where you get the money from? It's called corruption. You can't hide. You don't have enough network. What I'm concerned about is iceberg corruption, where what we recognize is just the tip of what is there. Now, who do you think can engage in iceberg corruption? But those who have significant network. Significant network. And so much money. That's where you get that money and spend it. People cannot question where you get the money from, because you have so much already. Those are the pieces of people who don't go to prison. You don't see the police going to their house, taking out TV, seizing cars. None of those things. Billions of dollars. The simplest evidence of corruption is the fact that more than 50% of the tax that should be paid, and it is criminal, you know, more than 50% of the tax should be paid is evaded. 95% of that tax evasion comes from who? Big private companies in Jamaica. 95%. Now, if we collected, what is it? We don't want to give you wrong information, but any amount of money we collected as tax revenue last year could have been doubled if it didn't have that kind of evasion. Use the example of the university. At one point in time, when our students they argued that we had to pay 20% of our school fee. And we're always saying, Why have to pay 20% of the school fee? Why have to pay 20% of the school fee? And my line of argument that if you're already finding 80%, why is it so difficult to find the other 20%? Especially if you have 50% of the tax being evaded, because if you collected half of that tax, everybody will come to school free in Jamaica. So you know about the idea that they can't have free education in Jamaica, you know. That was an excuse. The reality is everything is easier to charge you than to lock them friend who evaded the taxes. And that's where the dilemma is. Is that you have to go anywhere to borrow the money. But if you have money to collect and you don't have it, you don't get it. Where you borrow, you don't hope that when you get the money you can repay. No, they know their friends. Just as how we know some of these young youths who are engaged in politics and we call them in corruption. They were involved in corruption when they were on campus. So that's right. Come on, we know these things, man. No, the reality is, just as how we know some of those youths, they know their friends as well. And they know that they will not get the money from their friends through the legal means. They'll get the money through other ways. Through contribution to political parties, through financing housing and other forms of construction with their colleagues, vehicles as gifts, etc. So you see, again, Walter reminds us of these things, you know. Be careful of the people who expect them to get the change, because you really don't know them. You really do not know those persons. And sometimes we mistake intellectuality for honesty, you know. But it's a serious kind of error. I don't think we are short of bright persons in Jamaica. I don't know about bright people that read and write and can pass exam. You know? As much as the politicians behave in love in a sense, they're not dunce either. Because they can pass the same exam that all can pass. The reality is that they have chosen not to be their own Jamaican self. They have adopted a particular kind of selfish, self-interest culture, which is not Jamaican. The Jamaican culture is reflected really in the original countryman. The man who when you buy me are afraid to leave if you don't have a car because the amount of food in pocket with the can't come back the bus. See me? That's the same way we go to Papi to buy banana from and she said a dozen banana for $250 and give you a pure parcel free for $500 and she give you it free. Because she said the banana doesn't go past her yard, so she give you that as her friend, which is worth more than the banana she actually said. She don't put in her mind the money value. These people. And I'm saying those persons are the same person genetically the same, globally 99.9% the same. So why do they choose to behave differently? Loads of trust in the state, the police, and the church. The LAPOP study, the Latin American Popular Survey, actually shows that the church, the state, and the police, in particular the Catholic Church, are the three least trusted institutions in Jamaica. And again, it's not Rastafari in this research. I remind you. Because you see, Walter recognized the mind of the Rastaman and speaks a lot about it. And I'll show you later in the presentation. And for those who have never been to Bingi, you should go to Bingi. Yeah, go to Bingi and hear the ones that chant. The years chanting about the leadership of the church and the state. And 4 years after what Rastafari has said has been validated by researchers, not from Jamaica either. International researchers. That the politician, the church leadership, and the police are not trusted by the populations within Jamaica. That is what it is saying. And no, Rastafari is not out there influencing people to say, boy, you must trust the police and the politician. Rastafari not doing that right now. But the people see these things for themselves. They see these things for themselves. Observe some human rights. The research that you have just done out of comment and information. They observe some human rights for 3 persons unequally, especially the suspect of being a criminal. But it's not police alone. Because research also shows that people in the community that suspect of being a criminal and quick to issue their own justice, you know? So we just don't like thief. You know, but yet still, I know we have evidence that many members in high society are people who don't move against it. We just don't. So you get money can really buy what we call justice. However, note, in the JSF I have mentioned before, again, based on some of our research, there's an emphasis on community safety and security. This is a philosophy being adopted by the police. The question is this philosophy being financed by the state? Because you can have a philosophy where you have no way of really enacting that philosophy because you don't have the resources. So they have developed a community safety and security program based on community-based policies, which the World Bank has ranked as being the best in the world. And it's actually used in other countries. And when you speak to the former commissioner, he couldn't get the money to meaningfully implement the community-based policies program in Jamaica. You see, when they keep people basket to carry water. But we don't know this. Most of us don't know this thing. A lot of money is being spent on community safety and security. But when you speak to the commissioner and say, okay, we said to the government that we want to buy this equipment that can detect where a gunshot has been fired. So we do not have to send in 10,000 persons for the person who fired the shot because they can follow the heat signal. More than 3-4 years ago, and you don't buy the equipment, then what do you want them to do? But people don't know this. We don't know these things. And so, though Rastafari rightfully in the tribe, they see the police as Babylonian, as an oppressive force, being the arm of the state. It's 40 or 50 years have gone. Many of the youths who are in the police force, we need to speak to some of those youths. Careful of a country, you know. Be careful of a country which tries to tell you that the young people are evil, you know. But when you read research, you say that the young person in the police force are the ones who are most corrupt. And the young youths who are not in the police are the ones who kill the most people. Which means that the young people in Jamaica are either corrupt or murderers. Who's picking are those people? Dear youth. So you cannot come in and tell us, say, you, I'm a criminal, I'm a murderer. That's what they're saying. So when you go out in the street and you see a young man, what comes to your mind? Is a criminal? This is what they have done. So you use police and you use the youth. Because what I told you as well, they use the youth for political reasons. For gang. Then they use the police of the election to come and kill out the youth for political reasons again. Because they cannot control some of them. So either way we check it, them killing all the youth. Either way we want to think about it, the strategy that they use currently put all the youths at risk. Whether it's a police or a civilian. Are we really trying to resolve any kind of problem? It was a modernizing and professionalizing the police force. One of our graduates was the head of the professional standards brand. And we have discussion with some of those persons. And what the biggest concern is, when they make investigations and charge officers for corrupt behavior, when they go to the court, they let them go. That's what they're saying, you know. When they conduct investigations and charge officers for corrupt behavior, when they come to the court, most of the time they let them out. Most of the time. But if we're saying that there's high levels of corruption in these institutions, why when they get a chance to send them to prison, they don't send them to prison? Who are defending these persons? And I don't take excuse from lawyer, but you have to defend this man. I can't be a lawyer and bring a man who I know was a murderer and a cocaine man, and I must defend him, and I defend him. That's an excuse, man. That's no reason. Then if you're going to defend that person, who are you to criticize that person? I will sit down and I will take these kind of things. Who gives the JSF the orders? The state or the private sector? Not no vote. What's the people giving money orders? The private sector. That no state. State of money, state of beggars. If people then beg money, give them orders, to give the police orders as well. Who's taking money of crime in Jamaica? The fastest rate of employment is where? Security forces. What moves the fastest are the shelves in supermarkets? Dog food. You don't see these things. You don't see how the major section allocated to any one particular consumer is the dog. The people have done like his style. So we are building an economy which is based upon the persistence of poverty and crime. So if you speak to the one who was the Minister of Finance, and you know that the macroeconomic variables include employment, interest rate, exchange rate, etc. If you were to really resolve the crime problem, what kind of unemployment will take place within the security forces? There is high unemployment, So the question is, do you really have an interest to resolve crime if you're trying to stabilize what the macroeconomic variables, especially as you're making a lot of money of crime? Who do you think pays the highest cost in crime? The youth who are involved. Yes? Them can't find money for buying food, them can't find shot their AK, that's what I will charge. 250,000 of their AK, they can get a taxi. When they did, they can't just a funeral, they have to pay them same time, they have a plan for a funeral. But know these things, they pay upfront, They can't trust a funeral. So the cost is immediate. How do they resolve that? People borrow money to bury people. So that they can make an investment. They can't invest in a dead man. So you can return, you can recuperate the investment of the 250,000 or whatever it is. So I ask again, who gives the JSF orders? Yes? Is it the state or the private sector? I know that many ones out here in the private sector do not think that making arrest is resolving crime. Making arrest is not an indicator that you're resolving a crime in Jamaica. That you have to die. So the problem no longer exists. Many persons believe that. Check some of these NGOs who speaks about human rights. And you go to your organization and see what kind of security guard service they have right here. Do you think the security guard service advertise your service and say, okay, when we see the funeral, we will shake your hands? Those security guard service advertise your service with big, high-power weapons. So how comes they defending human rights with a security guard that have high-power weapons to kill people? They can't trick them on. The actions tell us exactly who you are and what you're doing. It's nice to get one talk about human rights. Same with animal rights. Different every animal except one in the plate. Every animal have rights except one in the plate. It's the same with human rights. Every human have right until that being becomes a threat to you. So what are we dealing with? We need to start check these things and question how decisions are made. Why do we applaud certain things? When they say crime is going on, what do they mean by crime is going on? When it's under control, what do they really mean? It's under control. Where you get shot from? Who check the gunshot with the security company them have? Who check the gunshot with the gun company them have? Who check these shots? So the man say fire 10,000 rounds on the rain. But that means them fire 10,000 rounds on the rain. That don't mean them fire 10,000 rounds on the rain. It means 10,000 rounds missing. So they could have sent it to anybody. Where do you get these things from? Where do them get the bullets from? They don't have no network. They have to know somebody who's a big man who knows the person who have the bullets. If it's even carry the thing through the wall, they have to know somebody who's a big man in the wall as well. Don't trick on yourself about things leave Jamaica and come through the wall, I know, little man in it. Them operationalize it, but somebody makes that decision, the final decision. So again, you and I, favorite tune, Great.
language that you use. Show your comprehension with the words them that you choose. Simplify your statement or attention you will lose. Unless you are intentionally trying to confuse. Cause I refuse to sit back and watch you hold you down. Until your top positions while the rest of them are drawn. Cause in the sentence of creation, all you are is just a noun. The verbs, words that put the power to the song. And that's where we are from. When wealth is for the few. They feel that there is no one they should have to answer to. So the things that they would say are not the things that they would do. Cause you know, talk to people still don't have a clue. But at least this much is true. Information is the key. This knowledge is the only way the people will be free. So it isn't just a choice, it's a responsibility to be aware. So you can judge if what they say is what you see. Cause this one is a war.
You know, we'll move on to UWI. You know, what are some really interesting things to say about UWI? You know? Yeah. And when we start to look at his thoughts on UWI, not much really changed. Although things has changed, I'm going to show you how some of the things has changed. Now here he's saying that there is no more bourgeoisie campus in the world than the University of the West Indies. Bourgeoisie is a fancy name for both slave. Yes, I was there. Let me give you the context of this thing. He was speaking about what happened in the 1968 riots. And he argued that the students on the campus came out in the demonstration in support of what was happening, yes? Ralph Gonzalez was the guild president at the time with Mr. Peter O'Sullivan being the treasurer. So, you know, the treasurer and the guild president mobilized these things at all times. And they said the students came out. Now he was arguing though that that would have happened at this time when he was actually a student. So he said there is no more bourgeoisie campus in the world than the University of West. So he's speaking primarily about the faculty right here, not the student population. Yes, I was there. In my time, this would not have happened. They might have demonstrated about bad food in the halls, or in solidarity with South Africans, you know, and quite harmless issues as far as Jamaican government was concerned. He was saying those are things that never really bothered the Jamaican government. But he was saying that the faculty people would not have done that. But the students at the time had done it. So he was saying that the students have a different kind of mindset from the faculty members. Very different mindset. He argues further that the system will give you a nice house, a front lawn, and a car, and a reasonable bank balance. Now I live by College Common, which is where lecturers live. And if you go over College Common, you see exactly the same here. They have a big land, like you eat grass. Of course they have a car, and a reasonable pay. Take a trip through College Common and you see real royal bank estate kind of settings they will set up over there. So what they doing? They will send your black soul, that is the function upon which you exist, a so-called intellectual in the society. How do we break out of this Babylonian captivity? That is what he was questioning himself. I suggest 3 ways. Really interesting. I suggest first that the intellectual, the academic, its own discipline, as to attack those distortions which white imperialism, white cultural imperialism have produced in our branches of scholarship. Our first thing was saying is about that thing we said, out of many one people. So it's a lie. And first word here with him at the time should have challenged it. Yes? My second point is that the black integral has to move beyond its own discipline to challenge the social myth that exists in the society as a whole. Thirdly, the black intellectual, the black academic must attach himself to the activity of the black masses. I'm going to move on to the other point before I start to address these things, because the reality is a lot of things has changed in the university in terms of the overall population and the activities, but a lot of things have still not changed. So here, these are the positives. Now I'm saying that the demography has changed significantly. Significantly. While the person we argue benefit from this thing was a middle class, more than half of the population of the university comes from the communities where Walter was trying to get in. A whole heap of grassroots youth are here in the university as students. Yes? A lot of grassroots youth are here in the university as lecturers as well.